I embarked on a trip to see the Larches of northwestern Montana, with Libby being the end destination. But there was a whole adventure along the way, starting in these mountain switchbacks near Helena. Right now we're on Montana Highway 279, snaking up to the Continental Divide, where we will overlook it at Fisher Pass. Now, the Continental Divide is what splits North America in two, where the rivers to the west of the divide drain into the Pacific, and the rivers to the east drain into the Atlantic. And we stop here for a little bit before snaking on down some more switchbacks into this valley, where we find this giant penny on the side of the road. Now, why is there a giant penny on the side of the road? Well, because it's Abe Lincoln Road, of course, just outside of Lincoln, Montana, which is a place I didn't know existed 2 hours before I went there. And this is the town we ended up eating lunch in at the Lincoln Pit Stop, because the only restaurant in town that wasn't also a casino. And I ordered a burger with goop on it, which even after ordering, wasn't entirely sure what it was. Probably just mayonnaise or something. Now, after Lincoln, we start to see the first of the larches. You see all those you see all that yellow in the hills? Yep, those are the larches. And a little bit later, we reach Clearwater Junction, where there's, of course, the Clearwater cow. And of course, and a little bit later, we reach the Clearwater Junction with this big, beefy cow. North of Clearwater, there's Sealy Lake, where we really start to see the larches, and we're able to take a closer look at them. By turning off on the Boy Scout Road, we're able to visit this grove of larches, which is home to the world's tallest larch. And you can see here why larches are so special, because even though they are a coniferous tree, their needles still change colors, usually just yellow, and fall off during the fall and winter. I don't believe they're the only coniferous tree to do that, but, you know, it's rather unique. I went to grab one to kind of show off the needles, and I forgot they were falling off, so probably shouldn't have done that. And as you can see, some of the older larches are just completely unfazed by forest fires. Just really scorch it a little bit. Now, as I said earlier, this grove has claim to the world's tallest larch, named Gus. Maybe there's a taller larch somewhere way deep in the forest, but this is the tallest one we know of. Gus stands at 153 feet tall, which is apparently slightly taller than the Statue of Liberty if you don't include the pedestal. Which means the Statue of Liberty isn't as tall as I thought it was then, so... Gus is a massive tree though, as you can tell. Dude, Americans will use anything but the metric system, I swear. Of course, Sealy Lake wasn't the final destination, so we kept going north, seeing some more larches and stunning mountains along the way. Here we are in the town of Big Fork at the northeast corner of Flathead Lake. Now the sun was setting, so it just kind of obscured our view of it, wasn't able to get a good shot, oh well. And we reach Kalispell. Now Kalispell is the 7th largest city in Montana, and is the largest one not located on an interstate, which it feels different than all the other towns in Montana somehow. Maybe because it isn't on an interstate, just the way it's laid out feels rather strange to me. It's also the only town in Montana with a Chick-fil-A, which if you know the demographics makes sense, but also used to be the only one with a Krispy Kreme, which is odd. There's 2 more now, but Kalispell's population has seen a massive growth in the past few years, along with like the Flathead Valley in general, just because, you know, people moving out here for remote work, so. Also, Chick-fil-A now has a few locations. I hadn't checked in a while. And after having dinner in Kalispell, we head on west to continue over to Libby. I arrived in Libby after the sun sets. There's no footage of Libby, but, you know, here's some nice little stuff along the way. Look at the moon. And in the morning, it was time to set out and explore the town of Libby. Libby's located pretty much... It's close to being the most northwestern town in Montana. Far upper left corner right here. And it's the county seat of Lincoln County, Montana, which is not where Lincoln, Montana was, but that's not really important right now. The city has also been nicknamed the City of Eagles due to the amount of eagle statues everywhere, which I'm pretty sure started with this massive eagle statue, and then other places just like, alright, time to put up our own eagles. There's eagles everywhere. You know, I had to see a little bit of Libby's history and check out their giant frying pan at the Heritage Museum, which claims it's the world's largest frying pan, although it's not. Apparently they used to cook big old egg breakfasts or something in it. I don't know. But the Heritage Museum, they don't just have a giant frying pan. Granted, that's the most interesting thing here, but they also have a ton of mining equipment, like every other town in Montana. Like a lot of places in Montana, Libby started out as a mining settlement, and the material they were mining was vermiculite. Now, the vermiculite was contaminated with asbestos. Now, this gives Libby kind of a notoriety in Montana as that town that was poisoned with asbestos. There's also like this cool vintage gas station here. Also, the fog looked really nice on the trees. Nice little backdrop. But this starts part later in the day, which is nice so you can see the mountains in their full glory. And since we came all this way, so I'd also check out the Libby Dam, where we saw some more larches along the way. The Libby Dam blocks the Kootenay River and ends up creating Lake Koocanusa, which is a 90-mile-long lake that extends all the way up into British Columbia. Now, the Kootenay River is actually the lowest point in Montana in terms of elevation, which is pretty surprising considering you think it'd be out east considering how flat it is, but no, I guess this valley is just deep enough. But yeah, so it's a pretty cool area. You can come up here and see the lake.
Look, it's the Dirty Shame Slide. Yeah, it's their Dirty Shame.
The Dirty Shame Slide was caused by a mining accident, I believe. Then we drove back down along the river to head back towards Libby. So head on back to Libby before setting out even more west and then eventually going back down south to look at the Cabinet Mountains. you can see the cabinet mounds here highlighted by a haze of smoke from what is hopefully a controlled forest fire, although it was a really warm year, so you never know. While not the highest mountains of Montana, they do provide a great contrast between the low river valleys, appearing much higher than they actually are. In fact, it was proposed at one point that they become a national park, but it's determined they don't have enough national significance. Oh, but Congaree does? I bet if you asked an average person, hey, what state is Congaree National Park? And they'd be like, what? Never heard of that. Listen, Alaska gets like 8, and they're in the middle of nowhere. So why can't Montana just have like one more, you know? I mean, it's proposed like 100 years ago, but still, you put it back on the table. And as we head on back down south, we drive along the Clark Fork River, which stretches all the way from Lake Pendoriel in Idaho down to Butte, Montana, which, let me tell you, it's a long way. Finally, we make a stop for lunch in Thompson Falls, which has a population of about 1,000 people and is the largest place between Libby and Missoula. Well, on the path we took, I guess. And it's still a kind of place to use Oriental when describing something that is perhaps maybe Asian inspired. Yep. Of course, the journey is starting to wrap up. We pass through the town of Paradise, which has maybe 100 people, but I'll see you next time I go somewhere. This has been Goshen Man, the Larches of Libby. Thanks for watching. This is like a remastered version of a video I made like a year or two ago, and because the footage there was like maybe 720p at best, I don't think it was actually, but I hope you enjoyed this one with the new footage, and I did re-record the audio because I lost the audio in a car fire. Now Goshen Man is like a whole thing I do. And this was like the prototype to it. So may go watching our Goshen Man video or follow some of the Ocean Man social medias in the description. Hope you enjoy. I definitely wasn't inspired to make this video due to Soilcord's obsession with Libby.